Okay, listen, it is July 4th right now as we speak, the night of, and I have been sipping something crazy all day. So I might be a little bit inebriated, but it's okay because I did it for America. I pledge of allegiance to this drink. But anyway, today we are doing the wear and tear stuff. All right, all of it. We're doing the wear and tear stuff from the gameplay deep dive, the wear and tear stuff that we got from the Dynasty Deep Dive, and we're putting it all together, right? All in one video. Because there's also stuff that was under wear and tear, but it wasn't under that subheading. They had it throughout the article in other sections because it kind of cross-referenced. So we're going to put it all together, and we ain't wasting no fucking time. We're getting going because one, it's about late as shit, and two, my last video was an hour and 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It's an hour and 10 minutes, and I ain't doing it again. I also ain't recording that again because ain't nobody got time for all that. So we're about to get started. Shit. All right, let's go. Okay, so of course we're starting with the gameplay deep dive first because chronologically that was first by like, I don't know, like a month or something. Shit took a while for them to come out with the Dynasty Deep Dive. But welcome to Wear and Tear. Wear and Tear is a feature that takes the football gridiron to an unprecedented level of realism. This feature ensures every hit matters and not all hits are created equal. Wear and Tear is a brand new and unique damage system that adds a whole new layer of depth and strategy to your gameplay and roster management. This is reflective of what we see on Saturdays. So just real briefly, remember it's a damage system. This has nothing to do with fatigue. That is completely separate, and I'll get into this later and go like really into depth with it because if y'all don't know, in CFBR college football event, a lot of my time and resources were put into fixing stamina because stamina was fucking broken. Like the fatigue system in NCAA 14 was fucking broken. So just remember, wear and tear has nothing to do with fatigue and the subbing in and out of players in terms of them getting tired. It's purely about the damage and, if anything, injuries, right? So try to create that distinction in your mind. It's very important whenever we're talking about these things. It has nothing to do with how tired a player is. Wear and tear is designed to simulate the real-world effects of fatigue and damage on a player's performance. And again, we know that fatigue is a separate thing. And the reason I keep stressing this, by the way, is because now we have something that we didn't have before. We have multiple reasons that a player could be disappearing from the game. They could be leaving the game for, good reasons if it's, tuned properly. Wear and tear, and they just got banged up and they're getting knocked out of the game. That's cool. The issues arise whenever fatigue rating, the fatigue system's fucked up, and then your players are disappearing. So you have multiple reasons a player can be getting knocked out of the game whenever they're not even hurt. So if one of these things, if either wear and tear or the fatigue system is fucked up, we're gonna need to be able to test and realize this distinction, and you need to isolate the variable and figure out which is the problem, which is causing these players to leave the games improperly, because that's how you need to be able to troubleshoot whenever you're like looking into sliders and stuff like that in order to make the game actually optimized and play like real football. But it operates on a play-to-play and game-to-game basis. If your quarterback has thrown the ball 40 plus times in a game and has taken some shots, no diddy, don't expect him to be at 100% the following week in Dynasty or Road to Glory. Subtle gameplay components such as getting the ball out early, covering the ball, and just getting out of bounds will be as important as ever. Wear and tear is on for all 22 players on the field. So, how does it work? Every limb and body part of a player is linked with unique attributes. For instance, if your quarterback's throwing arm receives a significant hit, you'll notice a decrease in your throw power and accuracy. Makes sense, right? If your arm gets hurt, it's harder to throw the ball. Very simple stuff, at least if you're throwing arm. Similarly, damage to the legs will impact a player's change of direction and acceleration, making every movement feel slower. We actually see this in a future screenshot that I'm going to show you guys in a little bit, so hold on for that. Each body part degrades at a different rate, and the player's toughness rating plays a critical role into how much damage is applied on a given hit. The more damaged a body part is, the higher the chance and severity of injury. So this is actually extremely important for us to think about and remember moving forward. The toughness rating has to do and plays a very heavy role in how quickly you accumulate these, we could just call it colors, right? The severity of wear and tear, not even the injuries themselves, but right, you get a body part And then whenever we look at these visual representations, the different graphics they're going to show us, it starts at yellow, you're starting to get a little fucked up. Orange, you're starting to get a little more fucked up. Red, you're super duper fucked up, right? It's very simple stuff in that way. But your toughness rating is going to slow that down. So that's very important. Even though your injury rating may have to deal with how often you get that actual injury, the toughness rating is going to slow down how quickly you accumulate the actual wear and tear. That may not lead to an injury itself, but is going to rack up these different dockings of ratings and make your player worse and put you in a position where they're functionally hurt because they have such negative attributes that you have to sit them, right? They have -10 speed, -10 acceleration and agility, to where you can't put them out there, even though they're not technically on the injured list with a torn ACL or something. They're so messed up at that point in time that you have to sit them. So just keep that in mind. That is what the toughness rating is, and that's going to matter, especially a high toughness rating on somebody who's going to get the ball a ton, like a quarterback or a running back, somebody who you're expecting to get more than 15 touches a game. That's going to be very, very important. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. Doc, I'm hurt. Recovery is also a critical part of this feature. Players will regain health when they are not on the field, during timeouts, at halftime, in between weeks. This is actually super interesting and super fucking deep. You can take that player out of the game, be like, yo, we're in the beginning of the third quarter and my running back has like red body parts and he's looked like he's really worn and torn up, you know what I mean? I'm gonna take him out for say you take him out for the whole third, because this is a tight game. I feel like I'm gonna need him in the fourth. You can do that and he's gonna recover during that time, or a timeout even. I don't know how realistic that is in terms of a player healing for the 2 minutes you get for like a timeout and then the TV break, which is actually 30 seconds, right? 30-second timeout. But it's very interesting. It's nice for the micromanagement, and just adds a whole lot of depth. This honestly should be under coaching in some ways, but that's very, very interesting. But however, be cautious of your player's workload. The worse a body part is damaged, the slower it recovers. Makes a lot of sense. A player can only recover a limited amount of damage during a single game. So this is important to think about here. A player can only recover a certain amount during the game, specifically. That has nothing to do with during the progression of weeks. So even though he can only recover a certain amount during that game, we read later on that you will say that, for example, you are at a red during the game. We don't know this exactly, but we're told there's basically a minimum threshold that you will recover up to. Minimum threshold meaning you will get to a certain point no matter how bad your wear and tear was prior. So in this example, we're going to say that you were at a red. Your whole body's red. You were fucked up. You were broken. You're in a full body cast. Whenever you progress weeks, you will reach that minimum no matter what. So say the minimum is yellow. Whatever that yellow means in comparison to red, you go all the way up there. You will always reach that minimum no matter what. So you don't have to be worried about things like in Madden when your players would disappear for full weeks and stuff like that. That won't happen, at least if it's tuned properly. But from the way they're explaining it, it should not happen, because you will always reach that minimum threshold. So even if you go into a game and you're a little bit beat up, you won't be totally destroyed. You won't be walking in there with these reds and just extreme rating dockings and just really beat up. It shouldn't happen from the way they're explaining it. We're trusting that they've tuned this properly, and that's all we can do. We can, hope and pray and just wait and see in 10 days or so. But from the way they're saying it, it sounds like they did it pretty properly. You will recover to a reasonable degree, even if not fully, at least reasonable. This encourages strategic planning and management of players to ensure optimal performance. When it comes to management, outside of the quarterback and offensive line, teams will substitute around the fatigue of a player or banged up body part. If a player gets really banged up on a given play, expect them to sit out a play or two or maybe more. Later in the game, the expectation is that the player will have to tough it out. Okay, there's actually a few things to discuss here. First of all, they did this really, really well. So in terms of IRL football and how often players sub out, The only two positions that do not sub out in terms of getting tired are quarterbacks and offensive line. That is just accurate in terms of snap counts. It is extremely uncommon for offensive linemen and quarterbacks to sub out unless one, for quarterback, maybe you have a change of pace guy. Maybe you have a pocket passer, but you're just bringing in, a runner just for a different package, or for actual performance, right? If they're playing like shit, then they'll get pulled. But those two positions, in terms of being accurate to real life football, they do not come out for being tired in the football game. But every other position does. Obviously, defensive linemen, they sub out the most. Then probably like linebackers and DBs and wide receivers, not as much. But that's just very accurate to real life. So it's nice to hear that they did it that way. Second here, I wanted to say, okay, so they discuss fatigue, but they say or subbing out because of fatigue or a banged up body part. So it's nice to see that they're using the distinction like, those are not the same thing. You can sub out for either of those reasons, which is nice. It's very real. But like I said, the only thing that's tough about it is if either of them are put in the game and they're broken, that's what's going to really suck, because then it's just going to be harder to troubleshoot these issues. But at least the great thing about wear and tear, all these things that I'm saying about like, oh no, if it's implemented poorly, even if it is, it doesn't matter in the sense that it can be toggled off. Like we can toggle it off. They've confirm that. So that's nice to hear. But yeah, the last thing I wanted to say was that late in the game, the players are going to get forced in. Doesn't matter if they're tired, right? Doesn't matter if they have a higher likelihood of injury because of wear and tear. They're going to shove them out there, and they're going to have to play and, tough through it. And that's nice to hear. It's going to, stop your players from disappearing in the key moments. So we love to see that as well. Okay, so if you guys saw my first video, you know that I am a huge simp over this UI and the different graphics that they've been showing us, that displays all the information in the game. And once again, it's beautiful. So here's the actual wear and tear, how it looks in game. First, just want to say, obviously the teams are wrong here, right? Mason Taylor plays for LSU, not Florida. Quinn Ewers, that one's correct. He plays for Texas. J. Michael Sturdivant, he plays for UCLA, not Texas. And Phil Maffa plays for Clemson, not Georgia. Those are incorrect there, but these screenshots are from probably January something. That'll be fixed for the game, I'm sure. But moving on, it's very simple stuff, right? Yellow's slight, orange is high, and red is severe for this likelihood of injury to those given body parts. The only thing I wanted to say here is poor J. Michael Sturdivant over here with a red chest. I just found it crazy that we have chest injuries in general, just because they, as you can see, the torso is its own section for wear and tear. You can see that here, like the torso is already its own section, but on top of that, they made chest a section, and that's just kind of crazy because outside of tearing a pec, which is sometimes that happens to a big ugly, but most people aren't tearing pecs. It can't happen, but that's basically the only chest injury that can happen. They're so rare. I mean, would you consider a collarbone a chest injury? Maybe, I don't know. I guess you can break your collarbone. I never thought of collarbone as part of the chest. Maybe it is. I don't know, man. I'm not an anatomist. Is that what they're called? I don't know. But listen, I just thought that was funny. The only person that's had a severe chest injuries, not being distasteful, but my boy Damar Hamlin. I'm a Pitt fan, all right? Born and raised in Pitt, went to Pitt. I'm just saying, people aren't just getting terrible chest injuries left and right like that. So I just thought it was funny that it was it's complete separate section from torso. It's like somebody's running up on you with a fucking sledgehammer and just bashing you in the sternum. Or poor Quinn Ewers over here got a 330-pound defensive tackle doing cannonballs into his chest. It seems like overkill that it's its own section, but I'm yapping, man. It's not a big deal at all. If anything, it's added depth that I just didn't expect in the game. But yeah, everything looks good here. Player reticle. Left side wear and tear bars, right side fatigue. So that's going to be very nice. We're going to be able to see both wear and tear and fatigue with literally just the flipping of those reticles. Note the bars depleting only represent the most hurt body part. depth chart. Here you can see a wear and tear panel on the bottom right of the player card, as well as the total and attribute is decreasing in the spreadsheet, and we actually have a screenshot of that later. So yeah, we'll get a visual representation of that. Coach vision, holding left trigger and right stick down to see the wear and tear status of your entire team, and I think we have a screenshot of that as well, or at least one of coach vision. Picture in picture in the play call menu, we've actually seen that in the trailer itself. We've added a ton of wear and tear get up animations. After a player's banged up, you'll see a variety of animations for a given body part depending on the severity. So that's just nice. It's not like NCAA 14 when my player, he's walking out of the game, even though it says he just tore his ACL, he's walking out of the game, holding his elbow. So it's nice to see that that's just modernized and actually makes sense. It's going to correspond to the actual injury or the body part that's banged up. And then you can also manage your player's wear and tear in the Dynasty player card. So basically, they're just telling us there's a whole bunch of different spaces in the game where you're able to actually view the wear and tear. It's going to be easily accessible from a bunch of different menus and everything. And you're not going to have to go searching for it, really. You know what I mean? It's going to be very accessible, and that's good. You want to be able to get to this information quickly. And this is just, like I've been saying, man, the way that they display information, even though we've not got our hands on the game, from what they showed us, it just seems like they're really displaying information in a very efficient way for us, and yeah, I appreciate shit like that. Changing the game. With these changes, wear and tear will add new depths to players' gameplay more than ever before. Up until now, aside from the risk of throwing an interception or fumbling, what have been the impacts of throwing the ball 40 to 50 times a game? Nothing. There were no physical consequences, right? Now, gameplay decisions come with physical consequences for your virtual players, adding another layer of authenticity and balance to the game. It's not just about the immediate win anymore. Now you have to consider long-term health and performance of your team. This is great. This is the exact type of depth that we want. You get punished for doing things, especially silly things. And there's these are the reasons most teams don't do things like this, especially whenever you think about it's so common for the casual person to give their running back 30 plus carries, you know what I mean, in a game of whether it's Madden or NCAA, and that that's incredibly rare. It's pretty rare for running backs to get more than 20 carries a game nowadays. That's rare. It just does not happen often. That's a workhorse if you're getting 20 carries a game. That's a legit workhorse. So it's nice to see that between the wear and tear system and the fatigue system, it seems like they're gonna be balancing it. Your players are going to sub out, and it should look like real football. You can't just pound it over and over and over with that player. You know what I mean? So we just love to see that. With the introduction of wear and tear, fatigue has been completely overhauled. Whereas wear and tear accounts for physical impacts, fatigue is primarily a conditioning feature, something we talked about already, guys. Designed to provide more realistic snap counts at the college level. It's something to pay attention to on a drive-to-drive basis. Let's say a running back gets 3 consecutive carries for positive yards. You may notice them huffing and puffing in pre-play. On a subsequent carry, they'll likely come out of the game. However, recovery has been changed to where it'll likely be for only a single play so that they can catch their breath and get right back onto the field. This is exactly what I just explained, right? They're just trying to make this much more realistic. That doesn't happen in real life. It just doesn't. Your running back doesn't get 6 straight carries. The dude would fucking die. They get tired. And this is why the vast majority of teams, they use at least 2, a lot of times 3, even sometimes 4 running backs in a single game, getting multiple carries. And that's just how it is because, like I said, players get tired and players get banged up. So it's awesome that I honestly, I did not think that we would get to this point, almost ever. But yeah, it's really cool to see EA and College Football 25 really just being like, no, we're going to try to mimic real life football. So yeah, this is something that we should be hype about, guys. Okay, so this is still in the gameplay deep dive, but it's not in the wear and tear system. This is if you go all the way down to the coach vision section. So Coach Vision, remember, this is a real-time pre-snap information system designed to quickly provide us a detailed overview of the features when holding down the left trigger. And for wear and tear, remember, at least in Coach Vision, whenever you look at wear and tear, it's only going to show the most banged up body part. It's not showing you the entire, player outline and then showing you what body parts are all hurt. At least whenever you're looking at it in coach vision, you can see that if you go into the menu, go to the player cards, or even whenever you're looking at in the picture-in-picture, then you'll be able to see the full bodies. But this is just to be able to quickly do it during the game. And here's the screenshot. This is showing composure. Look in the bottom right here. They're pressing up on the right stick. This is showing composure, which is the hot cold player system. But if you pull that shit down, it's gonna be wear and tear. And that's when you're gonna be able to see very quickly in game, without interrupting the flow of you playing your games. You're just gonna be able to see, okay, who's banged up where. And that's, like I said, it's just a quality of life thing, but it's really just gonna help, make this information very accessible and make the game flow and just be you're never going to get interrupted, right? You never have to go out of your way to find the information. It's always right where you need it. Okay, now we make our way over to the actual Dynasty Deep Dive. This is the new information that we were given with wear and tear. So like I said, I wanted to put it all together. The information we got from the gameplay deep dive, and then combine it with the Dynasty Deep Dive information, and just have it all in one spot where we can have a very full picture of how it's actually going to play for us in game. So managing wear and tear. With the introduction of the new wear and tear system, the week-to-week management of your players is more essential than ever before. As described in the gameplay deep dive, players can incur damage to a body part during gameplay. The more damaged a body part is, the more it will impact their on-field performance. In addition to on-field gameplay, players will also incur wear and tear damage during Super Sim. So that's just a nice thing, that wear and tear can't be exploited by simming, right? It's still going to happen, even if you're the type of person that sims. I don't do that. I need to be able to play my games, that ain't me. But it's nice to know there is a sim community out there, right? They like to play like coach mode and stuff. So, those are players too. That matters for them. So it's nice to see. Each week, players will recover some of their wear and tear damage. This is something we already discussed, actually. The amount of recovery is dependent on how damaged the body part is. For example, let's say in the previous game, your running back severely damaged his right ankle and his left shoulder was only slightly damaged. The next week, you can expect his shoulder to be fully recovered and his right ankle to be only slightly recovered. His ankle would then be something you want to monitor in the next game. So this is something we talked about, where there's this minimum threshold you're going to get back to. So you're not going into the game and you're totally fucked up already, right? You still might be a little bit banged up, but you're really healing up between weeks, and that's something that we'd like to see. You could decide to sit him in an effort to allow him to get back to full health the following week, or you could play him at the risk of increasing how long it takes him to fully recover. In an effort to ensure that players are not disappearing in big time games late in the season, we have set minimums that players will always recover to when advancing the week. This is the thing that I talked about before. There is a minimum threshold, right? You're always going to get back to this certain point. That way, when you're going into a game, you're not absolutely destroyed. So that's very nice to hear. That's something that's going to, once again, if it's done right, that should stop your players from disappearing from games entirely, unless it's because they're banged up, right? Like I'm talking about going into a game. They're not going to be at that very, very banged up state yet. And also, this is just very nice for, this is going to give us more decision making that we have to do with exactly how they said it. You're going to have to decide whether or not you want to sit that player and let them actually recover, or you might have to force them to play, right? Like, I mean, what if this is, Michigan and they're about to go play Ohio State? You're going to need your players to play. You know what I mean? You can't just be sitting them because you need to win that game. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. Maybe if you're going into a game against an FCS opponent, you're down to sit a starter, you know what I mean? Because they're banged up. And that's just going to be something that you have to deal with, because if you don't do it, you're going to be prolonging, these different body parts that are banged up. So it's a very nice layer of depth that's being added to the game for us. So you can monitor your player's wear and tear damage by viewing the health tab in their player card. To access this, go to the roster spreadsheet and press triangle or Y on a player. The screen will show his damaged body parts and associated ratings impacts. So we're about to get a nice screenshot here, and this is going to show us all that we need to know, all the necessary information that's being presented to us from the wear and tear. And this is something I definitely did want to talk about here. This is a little bit crazy. So Donovan Edwards here has yellow shoulder, yellow leg, yellow foot. But from that, That is a combined -7 break tackle, a total -7 change of direction, a total -6 speed. Oh shit, there's 3 more minus break tackle there. So that's -10 break tackle. Lord. And then -2 carrying and -3 catch. He's eviscerated. That's crazy. -10 break tackle, -7 change of direction, -6 speed. He is going to be a much worse player. I hope that they show his actual overall change, because I'm not saying that's making him unplayable, but he is a much worse player. And the thing that's a little scary about this is it's 3, I'm not calling it injuries, because these aren't injuries necessarily. These are banged up body parts, but it's 3 banged up body parts, but they're only yellows. And he's down that bad. Imagine if there were oranges and reds. Your player is going to be unplayable. You can't put his ass out there, bro. Oranges, we've not seen what oranges and reds do to the ratings exactly, but just judging based upon what we see these yellows doing, bro, if you have an orange and a red, you might be down like 15 speed, 15 change of direction, 15 acceleration, 20 break tackle. Yeah, he might go from like a 90 overall down to like a 70 overall. You know what I mean? Legit. Like, these are massive. Like, I just think about how these are going to stack. You know, we've seen some of those player cards where the bodies are messed up. They're all orange, all red. You know what I mean? They're really, really torn up. You're not going to be able to play that player. You're just not, because they're going to perform so much worse. You're literally just going to be better off putting in a backup. So, in that way, like I said, these aren't injuries. These are banged up body parts, but they're functionally injuries in the sense that you are going to have to take those players out of the game because they are so fucked up. And that's nice. Like, I like that. I like that a lot personally. That's real football. But players, even if they aren't suffering a like long-term injury, yeah, you get beat up, especially if you're giving them the rock a ton non-stop and you're not monitoring their carries or monitoring how often they're getting, laid out because they're throwing the ball 65 times a game. So, yeah, I mean, this is a massive W for us, guys. And actually seeing how this works, it's very exciting. And I can't wait to actually get my hands on this. And I hope you guys are hyped for it as well, because this is legit. It looks like they did very well with this. Okay, and the final thing we get, this is from the Dynasty Deep Dive, but it's not under the wear and tear section. This is in the Dynasty Deep Dive under the red shirt section. So I'm just going to read the little paragraph here real quick. Those 4 games can be played at any point in the season. Remember, this is regarding the 4-game red shirt rule. So you can get a freshman some game reps early in the year and then hold them out until the end of the season and then bring them back in for a playoff run if wear and tear has run your roster down and you need a fresh body when the season matters most. So, like I said, I went through and I legit Control F7'd both the screens, the entire articles of Gameplay Deep Dive and Dynasty Deep Dive, because I wanted every single time that wear and tear was referenced, we have it in this video right now. It's all conglomerated to one space, and I just want to, like I said, I want to talk about it all as a whole, all the information we have. So here, this is just another thing to consider. Like, a lot of these different features are overlapping. Like, wear and tear is overlapping with your decision to redshirt, and you know what I mean? They can only play 4 games if you want to keep that redshirt, but if wear and tear is messing you up, especially closer to the end of the year, that's gonna matter. It's also something that we've not seen talked about in this way, where you put your your bye weeks. That's gonna matter. You want to put your bye weeks before you play a big game. That way you have an extra week for wear and tear to be recovered, and that's extremely realistic. That's a very important thing in real life when teams are coming off of buys. I actually should have pulled up some different statistics about this, but teams typically perform much better whenever they come off buys because they have another week to actually recover. And I'm talking about later in the year. So that's another thing. So even scheduling and things like red shirt, wear and tear is going to be, it's going to just transcend the actual gameplay itself. It's going to be a real factor in a lot of the decision making that you make in your dynasties. And that's amazing. Like, it's great that it's this deep. And like I said, CFB 25, as long as this is tuned well, this is going to be an incredibly fun feature. Like, legitimately, it's gonna fix a lot of the issues of things that didn't feel quite like real football. This is going to make it feel like real football in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm just happy that it seems like they do it well. And like I said, at the end of the day, even if it is somehow fucked up, which I don't think it will be, but you never know, even if it is implemented poorly, guess what? We can go in there and we can just toggle it right off. And that's the most important thing for any feature that they put into the game. We need to have that toggle off. That way, you know, obviously CFB 25 looks like it's being run by people that know what they're doing and are passionate and care, but we've also seen EA fuck up a lot. So it would just be nice to have the option, no matter what it is, we can just turn it off if it seems broken. So yeah, that's everything. That is everything regarding wear and tear. Okay, so let's go. I hope that was like not nearly as long as the other one, but in full transparency, I recorded half of that the night of July 4th. I was a little bit turned, but I finished this July 5th, so you know I was recovered. So I might have been a little bit crazy early in the video, but anyway, appreciate you for just like actually coming through and like listening to the shit. Definitely, like I said, guys, literally costs $0. That's how much money it costs to press that button. Click the fuck out of that button, please, like it. And you know, if you're not subscribed, do that please. And I'm just I'm excited, love talking about this stuff. I don't know what you guys want next. Probably like recruiting's gonna be such a long video though. I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure that out. I mean, you guys can definitely just like comment and tell me, or you know, you guys talk to me in other places too, a lot of you. So let me know what you want, and hopefully this was enlightening, and you know, I hope it was nice to have all the things from that we were given in both the gameplay deep dive and the Dynasty deep dive, and have it all smashed together so you can have the most full and clear picture of how wear and tear is gonna work. So like I said, click the fucking button, like that shit. But thanks, and I will see y'all later.